everyone. Welcome to Wife Her Live, the Motherhood edition. Getting back into our motherhood chats, we have our lovely guest tonight, Mrs. Ceonn Edwards, and we are talking about autism. My dog and this duck toy. Talking about autism. So, just the purpose of this conversation is to inspire hope into the households of mothers and fathers who are just receiving this diagnosis in the home. So, we want to talk to people who have already journeyed this, who've already, faced the diagnosis, implemented solutions, seeing growth, having acceptance, going through all of the emotions, and just loving on their child. So, welcome, Ceonn. I see Beth
Thank
is.
you.
Good evening. Good evening. So,
Good
first off the
evening.
bat, have various, not only autism moms are going to watch this. What is autism?
Okay, so autism spectrum disorder, known as ASD, is a social developmental delay disorder. So a lot of people think it has to do with intelligence. It doesn't have anything to do with intelligence. It's all about social development, how they develop socially.
Yes, and you have your son who's about to be 4 years old.
hmm
And he was diagnosed at age 2. So what kind of early things? I know you as a mom, you saw things happening, and you're the first advocate for your child. You saw that things were, just a little bit, like, I don't know, like, well, let me watch that. So let's talk about some of the things that you started to observe at an early age that led to the official autism spectrum diagnosis.
There were a lot of things, and before I start, I just want to say that every person that's diagnosed with autism may not experience these symptoms or these challenges. It's very specific to the individual and what they go through and how they fit on the spectrum. But the main concern for us was him not answering to his name, as simple as that sounds. Very limited eye contact. Not, like I said, as a social disorder, so he didn't want to engage with anyone besides his parents, especially during the pandemic. We were all that he knew. So he got really, really upset when his cousins would visit or any other family members would visit. And at first we were like, okay, he just has to get used to them. But after they came around every single day and he still got alarmed anytime another person came around, that was very concerning for us.
And so what were your steps to finding out what it actually was that was happening?
Well, initially, we were trying to wait it out to see if it was just something that he was going through, if as he got older, he would, you know, not have these challenges. But as a parent, you have to go in to see a pediatrician every few months. And I remember at his 18-month checkup, and the pediatrician said, he's supposed to be speaking at least 100 words by now,
Mm.
and he wasn't speaking any at all. He was at zero. So I was like, whoa, something is going on here. So their initial reaction is not to get tested for autism, but to actually test your hearing. So
Mm.
that's what we did. We had to go and test his hearing just to make sure that he could hear language very clearly and he understood what was being said to him so that he could mimic what we said. So we went to get his hearing tested, of course, came out 100% fine with his hearing. And then after the hearing results came back okay, then our pediatrician referred us to a child psychologist.
Mm.
And that's when we had to sign up for him to get tested for autism spectrum disorder.
And what, there's mixed emotions when a parent learns that their child has autism because you're in that for the long haul. So what were some of the emotions that you experienced when you officially knew that your son was on the spectrum?
Well, when it comes to me, of course, I have a background in psychology. So when I found out, I was like, okay, every time I experience a crisis, I'm like, what do we do next? How
Mhm.
do we, what are the next steps? What's the plan? How do we help him? But on the opposite end, my husband, he was very devastated about the diagnosis because the whole time he was skeptical. He was like, oh, nothing is wrong. We don't need to be alarmed. As he gets older, he's going to be okay. My husband said that he didn't talk until 5 years old, and he was a late talker. So we just assume, okay, let's give him some more time and everything like that. So I went into plan mode.
Mhm.
Okay, I need to find a therapist. I need to do what I have to do. While he was still, very devastated and very sad, and that made me kind of sad seeing him feel so helpless and not knowing what to do.
But was your quick call to action, you kind of, I would say gathering the troops, so to speak, as soon as they said that one of the troops arrived. Okay, so like gathering the resources in place, and you have action steps. You know what to do next. Did that help him to relax? To know that my wife is trained and able to handle this, and she knows what needs to be done for the benefit of our son.
In a way, because after we found out what to do, there was that other obstacle that happened. Treatment for children with ASD is extremely expensive. It's
Mhm.
like off the walls, and we weren't prepared for how expensive it was. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, most insurance companies, they do not provide support for our kids in the Bahamas that are diagnosed with autism. So that was another hurdle that we went through, because we're like, okay, now we know what to do. So how do we pay for this and still survive, and still be able to take care of him, with the cost being so high?
So what did you do? You just roll with the punches, or you found like you would limit therapy in order to, like, make sure that you could accommodate it into your budget. Well, budget is also our focus of the month, so of course this is like top tier, right up our alley. So what did you do when things got expensive, but it's something that you knew was not a luxury? It was almost a necessity for your child.
We did a lot of research. We did a lot of research. We did a lot of calling around.
Mhm.
We did, okay, what can we do in terms of, and he was getting ready to start school as well. What could we do in terms of school and therapy, and how are we going to balance those payments? Because he was only about 2 years old. There are special programs in the government school system that help and cater to kids with autism, but he was too young to
Mhm.
attend government schools. So we had to look into a private school that is also going to be nurturing to him, caring for him, at the same time, pay that fee in addition to paying for therapy. So because we do have insurance, we just had to work with our insurance company to see what they were willing to pay for. And we had to research until we found the best price, the best therapist, whatever we could do to get him the help that he needs. So we focus more on speech therapy
Mhm.
and occupational therapy. And most people don't know what occupational therapy is, but occupational therapy is just to help them with their motor skills. Like we're behind socially. So they take longer to learn how to eat, how to use the potty, how to change their clothes, how to undress, different steps like that. So they need occupational therapy to help them in that aspect. And of course, he needed the speech because he's nonverbal.
And someone just said you want to start the therapy as early as possible. So as you were talking, I was thinking, well, in your situation, there is one son, one child. Imagine a child that has these needs coming into a household, fourth or third. It's a whole
Mhm.
different experience, but still that you need to be able to try to catch it as early as possible, see what things are available, free resources online and stuff like that, but definitely not letting things just slip, not just letting it kind of resolve on its own. When you see things start to take place, try to take action steps. whichever, you know, whatever is available to you. So I love that. And I vividly remember you sharing candidly, you know, Caleb going to therapy. And at first it was a crying session every single time,
Mhm.
all tears. And then over time, as he started to get more relaxed in that environment, it was something that he almost looked forward to. So
Yes.
I like, I mean, I know everyone, when you send your child to school for the first time or they try something for the first time, they cry, you cry. But what was that like? Like, am I doing the right thing? Like, how did you talk yourself through seeing him be, you know, so afraid of
Mhm.
this new experience?
It was definitely terrifying because where he receives therapy, I'm not allowed in the room. So it was definitely terrifying because I'm like, okay, I'm trusting this person with my child, and he can't even express to me if something is going on, or, if he is being harmed or anything like that. So it was a real trust the process moment. But even though he's nonverbal, he still communicates in other ways. So
Mm-hmm.
I could tell by his mood and everything that he really felt comfortable in this new environment with these new people that he was just getting to know. So after a while, I was at ease because I saw how he was excited to go, smiling, running to his therapist. He loves his therapist now.
Yeah.
So that was able to, calm me a little bit.
And I don't want to be, you know, throwing names around on the live, but if I'm
Mhm.
sure Ceonn has no problem if you message her afterwards if you want additional follow-ups and resources. She also is a therapist. That's the right term.
Yes, I'm a counseling therapist as well.
So she is a counseling
Mhm.
therapist. So definitely, you know, mothers struggling or parents struggling, you know, with dealing with this, and you want someone to talk to who understands not just from an experience standpoint, but from a research-based education standpoint. She is definitely your girl. We'll talk more about that at the end, but just wanted to
Definitely.
plug that in that, you know, you have this resource available to you professionally that can help you dealing with this. And I want to talk about how Caleb thrived or didn't thrive in, you
Mhm.
know, the years post implementation of the measures that you put in place, the therapy, the patients at home, all of those things that you guys would have put. And you also can talk about what you did at home to complement therapy as well. So how has he thrived since implementing those things?
He's thrived in such a major way. He definitely answers to his name. He gives eye contact. He understands everything. So his receptive language is what they call it when you understand and you're able to follow instructions and you can actually comprehend what's going on. Like your cognitive ability to understand is great in A1. That's Caleb. So if I ask him if he wants an egg sandwich, he can't say, "Yes, mommy, I want an egg sandwich." But he can go in the fridge and he pulls out the bread and he pulls out the eggs. So he understands everything. He's very, very smart. He is in school full time, so he can identify all his shapes, his colors, his numbers, everything like that. So he's still on par with his classmates academically.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of social development, that is still a challenge. It's hard for him to do things on his own independently. He still needs a lot of assistance with, getting dressed and doing stuff like that. He is not an independent sleeper. He still needs to co-sleep to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
He's not potty trained and different aspects like that. So, a lot of the social development, we're still working on those things, but of course, those things will come in time.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that attitude. I think that's the best attitude
Mhm.
to have when you're facing any life challenge. You know, things will get better in time. It won't always be like this. And especially with, you know, being on the autism spectrum, what you see today isn't necessarily what you're going to see next year. And so there's a lot of hope with a diagnosis like this. There's also a lot of challenges. We won't belittle that, but there's also a lot of hope. We see a ton of success, and not enough success stories actually, but they where children may have had a socially delayed start, or what we perceive, because we view intelligence a certain way, as a delayed start intelligence wise. But these children go on to thrive, master's degrees, doctorate degrees, teaching in universities, writing books, they're actors and write all these things. So we don't see it as much as we should, but there is hope embedded in an autism diagnosis. And so, moms, be courageous, be that warrior that you always knew you could be for your child, and have that patience to know that, there's beauty after this, and there's beauty in the journey too. I saw it's not a sprint, it's a marathon with our kids in regards to their progress. Yes. And I think you could talk about how it has transformed you as a woman and as a mother, going through this journey.
It's so funny because I remember before I got pregnant with Caleb, I asked God for patience. And oh boy, did he deliver. I am extremely patient now. It's like it takes so much to stress me at this point because I learned that I have to wait. I have to be still. I have to let him take his time. Even if we're walking somewhere, he is so focused on the trees and the street lights and everything. He stops and he stares and he wants to touch. He wants to see the difference between the grass and the concrete. He wants to play with the little birdie in the bush that I didn't notice. I'm just walking and trying to get to my destination, but he notices every little thing. If I change my hair or do something, he's the first to notice before my husband notices because he picks up on every single detail. So I'm just amazed by him sometimes because he stops and let me, see the world through his eyes. It's so different because the simplest things hold his attention for so long. Things that I didn't appreciate before. He loves nature. He loves being outside. He loves animals. He just loves to understand how things works. He takes apart every electronic device he can find his hands on. He takes it apart because he wants to see how it works. So he really changed me in terms of living in the moment, enjoying the simple things, and being very, very patient.
That's beautiful. I love that. We're going to get into a little bit more about like day to day, a hard day and a good day. But there was a comment that I don't want to skip over. It was about finances. Kingdom finances coming along to implement resources because it's so expensive. But, we're talking about money this month, and I strongly want to say this because what Ceonn said today, and I didn't even have a view into this. But if you know a family with an autistic child or a neurodiverse child, then that is a perfect place for you to sow a seed this month or next month, whenever you get it, because that will be so helpful in securing care for that child or that family, or helping them to get access to something, or just making their plate a little bit less full. So if you know a family that's one of those categories I just mentioned, then you have a place to sow seed this month or next month, because that definitely is going to be used in a mighty way. And so don't say you don't have a place to sow. You do. Just think about what's around you, what gardens are around you. Just wanted to plug that in and hopefully you take heed. So let's talk about a hard day. What does a hard day look like in the Edwards household?
Well, for me, because Caleb is pays so much attention to detail, hard days for me, I sometimes stress about having everything exactly in order for him to be able to complete his routine for today. So if I wake him up and he hasn't got enough rest, that's already starting at a bad point. because all kids have tantrums, and it's perfectly normal because they are trying to regulate their emotions. But Caleb has a really hard time regulating his emotions. It can take up to 20 minutes to an hour,
Mm-hmm.
just trying to get him ready for school if he's not in the right mind frame, if he's miserable, if he's hungry, if he's sleepy. Those are really hard days because sometimes you get the looks,
Mm-hmm.
but when you have an autistic child, you cannot discipline them in certain ways because it's not rude behavior. It's them not understanding how to cope with whatever frustration they're dealing with. So sometimes you just have to wait it out, wait till he is ready to calm down. And that's another challenge. He does not like you to pacify him or calm him down. So if he's upset and you're like, oh, come here, baby, it's okay, he takes it to another level. So you really have to, just wait it out and hope for the best that he is going to learn how to cope on his own, um, so you could move forward.
You
So
talked
those are really hard days when he has those serious meltdowns and there's nothing I can really do but wait until he gets through it.
you talked about it happening in the home. What about when it's like in the mall or you in Fusion or you're at the supermarket? Do you have tried to avoid public spaces, or how do you handle an emotional outburst in a public space?
Well, it I don't try to avoid public spaces because I'm never the type to let him have a dependency on being secluded in a certain environment, or make, even though his sensory issues are intense sometimes I welcome him being in a loud, crowded space because I want him to be able to cope if this happens. And that's just coming from the counselor side of me. I try to put him in environments where he'll be able to cope and understand. So his favorite place is the food store. But when he gets into certain routines and those routines change, is you would have those really big meltdowns. So I've been in the food store before where he's taking off his street shoes, throwing them at me, throwing everything out of the cart, out of frustration. But I just let people stare and I try to get on with my shopping because I know that if I get upset, that's not going to help either of us. So I just try to, pretend like everything is okay. I'm like, baby, it's okay, baby, it's okay. Let's go here. Distract him from what it is that may be upsetting him. Grab him a snack. Do something to change the mood or change the environment somehow. I just let people stare. People stare at me for no reason now, so I just let people stare and we continue with whatever activity that we're doing. Um, we don't stop.
I love that. Someone said, "Wow, this is really good advice." And I agree. Just not just the advice, but the attitude, the calmness, all of that, like by osmosis, let's all get it. Like, let's get beyond calm, because definitely we
Mhm.
need that and the changing scenes of life. So definitely, and I love listening to you. I don't know if you plan to do a podcast or anything like that, but definitely that would be so nice, so soothing, you know. What does a good day look like? A really good day.
Oh, a good day for me is when I wake up wake him up in the morning and he starts spinning and stemming, and you could tell that he is so happy and he's flapping his hands and he is running to us for affection. That's how we know that he is in a good mood. When he gives us lots of affection. He doesn't know how to kiss, but he loves to put his cheek up to our lips so that we can kiss him. So
Hmm.
I know that whenever he's in a good mood, that is a good day for me. Whenever he is happy, so I love those aspects of autism when you could see the joy on their face. He has a fascination with Hot Wheels and
Mm-hmm.
cars. So anytime he gets a new car or a new Hot Wheel, he starts flapping his hands and he's just so excited. So those are good days for me. I love those days.
Oh, look at the reactions. Yes, very affectionate. So definitely that is very insightful. I love the balance of the good and the bad. Not bad, but
Mhm.
good and hard. Um,
Yeah.
and so definitely thank you for sharing that. You talked a little bit in the beginning about, your husband's response, but did going through this have an impact on your marriage in general, good or bad? It could have brought you closer. It could have caused a little bit of tension because now you're focused more on Caleb, than necessarily just me and hubby, and then obviously we bring in a son, but there's a bit more focus on Caleb.
Well, I would say that when it comes to Caleb, my husband, and Caleb's relationship, I mean, it's so unique. From day one, Caleb was in the nursery after I gave birth to him, and every 2 seconds, his father would go check up on him. Oh, I got to check up on him, see if he okay, see if he's doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
My husband, he slept in the crib with Caleb so he wouldn't cry, so he wouldn't feel alone. They have a very, very close relationship. So, in terms of our marriage, when things happened, we actually became closer because we had to figure this out together. So you heard me talk about my research. My research doesn't have anything on my husband's research. Till this day, he's up till 3 a.m. in the morning looking for diets. He just told me yesterday we got to do a gluten-free diet. And I'm like, oh my goodness. He's trying to find any single way that he could help. So we work together as a team. I think it brings us closer together because sometimes when he sees me frustrated, he'll tag me out and he'll jump in.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when he sees Caleb's upset, I don't even have to say anything. He'll come and get him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even though I'm the mom, my husband prepares meals. He changes the pull-ups. He does the baths. He makes sure his hair is in order, takes him to the barber and stuff like that. So irons his clothes. So it's really a joint effort, and I think I've fallen more in love with him, seeing how he, just stepped up and he's really there for the both of us during this time.
That's beautiful because not everyone has that testimony, and so that's such
Mhm.
a beautiful thing that how I wouldn't even say step up to the plate because that's just who he is and he loves you, and I'm sure that's just
Mhm.
an extension of his love for you. Um, but some people experience the blame of who caused this, who caused this to happen, or where did this come from in our genetics, and then there's the I feel so defeated, I don't know how to help, or this is too much for me, this is sensory overload for me, because some adults are going through life without being diagnosed and they have sensory overload and overwhelm, and so it's so many different examples, but it's great that we have this beautiful example of teamwork, of how things can work and thrive even in the midst of a challenge. So, definitely thank you for sharing that. If you have other experiences, if you on the in the chat you have a different experience, you're welcome to share anonymously or publicly. In the wifer group you're allowed to share anonymously, but just having a various colors to experiences is great as well. So thank you. Um, let's see what else I have on my list. Oh, moving to the end of our discussion, I think let's pull this one up. Some helpful resources for parents who, are facing a diagnosis.
Well, we have definitely Reach. I'm a part of Reach, and it's resources for children that are on the spectrum and have other challenges. Reach is a great place to start because they have speech therapists and names of people that you can get in contact with to get testing. There are a lot of places privately that have a long waiting list just to get tested. Um, we put in for Caleb's testing when he was about 18 months, and he didn't get tested until he was like 2.5. So it's a long waiting list for those things. And they also have a support group, a WhatsApp support group, and an educational forum that you could be a part of as well. They always have experts coming in to talk about these challenges and how parents can do therapy at home and different stuff like that. So, if you are looking for a resource, number one, Reach is a great resource to start with.
And they're on Facebook. And so,
Yes,
what's
they're
the best?
on Facebook, they're on Instagram, and if you message them and tell them you want to be added to the WhatsApp group, they will add you. You could have support from other parents that are dealing with things, and you could ask the parents questions
Mm-hmm.
on, how to deal with stuff, and they have great help when it comes to those things like potty training and different stuff like that. They have all kind of ideas and techniques. So definitely, sign up with Reach. They also have a program on the weekends where they also watch our kids for us. So if you need a
Wow.
little bit of free time for yourself, I thought that was so cool that they do those things. So definitely reach out to Reach. They're a great resource. We also have some private institutions that help as well. Depending on what your finances are, we have the Renee O'Neill Institute. They offer ABA therapy, speech therapy as well. And of course, we have the infamous Seahorse Institute. That's where Caleb was tested. They did a phenomenal job. The test was 3 days long, but it's very thorough. So, when you get your diagnosis, it's actually correct because they take their time and they work so well with kids and adults who are on the spectrum. So, you could look into those resources.
So, those are all locally Bahamas based. Anything
Yes.
on that you used as well?
Yes, I did use a speech therapy program online before Caleb started in person. It's called Gemini. Now, for Caleb, I think he was a bit too young to really focus and pay attention, but it's really good in terms of speech therapy videos that you could just play for your kids while they're in the car or while they're at home because they're on YouTube most of the time anyway. So those educational videos are very good and it's very cost effective. Gemini, I believe it's around $100 a month, which is excellent, versus $170 per speech therapy session.
Mm,
So the cost is different. So you could try it out as well to see how well it works. And I think they give you a free trial. I think the first month is free, so you can look into Gemini as well.
beautiful. Thank you for those resources. Um, Tamara asks this question: what advice would you give the public at large who may be out and see an outburst to help parents? Example, like don't stare, just do what you do, whatever it is that would be helpful in that moment for the public who is around when an outburst may be taking place.
My advice to the public is to definitely try to become more educated about people who are neurodiverse because autism is becoming more prevalent every day. It used to be one in every thousand, now it's one in every 44 children. So we're going to be experiencing a lot of people on the spectrum in years to come. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just different. They just see the world in a different way. Some of them are the most loving, intelligent people that you will ever meet. So just educate yourself about them. Like I said before, they're extremely intelligent. And I call them, I say sometimes they have little superpowers because they can do things that we wouldn't even imagine or think about doing. So try to get to know them for yourself. Try to open your mind to the possibility that there are people out there that just think differently from you, but they are wonderful, wonderful people to be around.
Definitely. I love that. So, key is getting educated and I think getting plugged in. Autism Awareness Month this month is going to get larger and larger. And what I'm seeing, and I saw it at the workplace, is more adults are speaking out about what it means to have autism and be on the spectrum, be neurodiverse. And that is the part that I think we need to see more because, there's a lot of panic or, resource in place for children, but seeing people who 50 years ago or 30 years ago or 20 years ago or 10 years ago, they grew up without the understanding, without the resources, and seeing where they are today. So I'm loving more of that. I had the pleasure of being a part of some audiences at work where some of my colleagues who I didn't even know, they share
Wow.
journeys, and so
Mhm.
even all of that, becoming more educated on both sides, and I know you're in a great position as a counselor in the education system where you get to see teenagers who
Mhm.
are neurodiverse. And so what is that like, like thinking, oh, my son is only 4 years old now and this is a teenager or like a late you're in primary school or high school? Is it primary school?
Primary school, but
Primary
I do
school.
have some teenagers in the special education unit.
So
And
what
like
is
I
that?
said, they are the sweetest. They come to my office. They tell me good morning every day. They don't miss a day. They come and open my door and just ask me how I'm doing. They love spending time with me. They love having conversations with me, and I love being around them because they just are so talented, so smart, and so brave. Some people might misunderstand them because we have this stigma surrounding people who are neurodiverse, but until you're actually in the company of them, you see things so differently. Because we have a lower primary unit and an upper primary unit. So we have those on the lower primary unit that some of them aren't verbal as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoy interacting with them. When I walk in the classroom, they just smile and they cheer and they make me feel so welcome. So I love seeing the transition
Mm-hmm.
as they grow and they improve and they gain those skills. I think that's very helpful to me as well because I know that my son is going to do the same.
Yeah. And I think it's strange because my dad is a special education teacher. But one of my first experiences with anyone on the spectrum was when I went to university.
Oh,
And,
wow.
I studied math in university, a very prestigious university in Canada. And, some of my friends, but they were open and honest. They were like, you know what? I have autism. If I get angry, I may act like this, but they were the sweetest people. I mean, I never saw the
Mhm.
I don't know if they happened or didn't, but intelligent, so sweet, still friends with some of them today. We checking on each other on Facebook. And so definitely that was my first introduction to, oh wow, and then obviously different movies would share the stereotypical aspects
Yes.
of being on the spectrum. And I think all of that adds flavor to us understanding more. Like you said, no two situations are alike. No two children are alike. No two households are alike. How it manifests with their child will be different from how it manifests with Caleb. But
Mhm.
this is just to give you a little dose of hope that my son or daughter is going to be okay. They're going to thrive. They're going to do it their own way, but they're still going to thrive. This has nothing to do with intelligence. This has everything to do with their social development. It may look a little bit different from that child or that child, but it's still all okay. And so, closing remarks from you, three things. We'll go through them, in stages. But what would you say to a new mom or new parents facing this? Like, oh my gosh, my child has autism, or even before they have the diagnosis, but oh my gosh, like I'm seeing what they perceive as developmental delays.
Mhm.
What do I do? Like how do I face this disappointment in my heart for my child?
I think you have to look at it from a perspective of this is not something that's happening to you, it's happening for you, especially in relation of purpose. like you could do this. It's going to change you so much. It is going to change you for the better. You actually see yourself becoming a better person
Mm-hmm.
because of your child's diagnosis. You see the world differently. Things that might matter to some people, they don't matter to you. Things like, probably fame or having a lot of money or designer clothes and different stuff like that, your perspective is going to change so much
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to have a purpose. You say, okay, my purpose now is to advocate for my child, and I don't think anything is better than having a purpose and knowing that, you're your child's superhero and you're there for them and you're going to advocate for their needs. So
Mm-hmm.
try to look at it from a perspective of this is going to change you in a good way.
That's beautiful. And you said something that I want someone to put that in the chat. This is not happening to you, it is happening for you. It is happening
Mhm.
for your growth, for your development, not against your marriage, not against your relationship, not against your child, but for all of those things. So definitely love that injection of HOPE. Now, what
Mhm.
about parents who are parenting neurodiverse teens? You mixing in the hormones and you're mixing in that, there's this general outburst when you get older in general. So just a little bit of hope, and encouragement for them at that stage of the journey.
Well, with teens, the thing about autistic teens is they're very honest. So that is definitely a pro. You don't really have to worry about them sneaking off and doing things and not being honest about it. Because even when I have kids that do something inappropriate, I would have them, not tell me the truth or deny it. My autistic kids, they're going to admit it. Yes, Miss Edwards, yes, I did this, and every experience is a learning experience. So just how they have to learn everything. They have to learn about forgiveness. They have to learn to have self-control. They
Mm-hmm.
have to learn to be a good friend. So these hiccups that they go through is only for their betterment because they have to experience things in order to say, okay, maybe I don't treat my friends like this. This is how I'm supposed to treat my friends. This is how I'm supposed to respect mommy. This is how I'm supposed to do my work and focus and stuff like that. So I love the honesty aspect of it. Yes, kids are going to make mistakes regardless, but I love that because they're so good at learning, so good at routines. It's easier for them to make character developmental changes because they
Mm,
know that if they do something once and they get in trouble, they can say, okay, I'm not supposed to behave in that way. And they
mm.
try to do better.
That's very interesting, and I love that perspective.
Mhm.
Um, so finally, what would you say to your younger self with 18 months, 16-month-old Caleb? What would you say to that version of Sion?
Um, I would tell her that, Caleb is going to be a rock star. He is so loved and he is so famous with his little TikTok followers. When we go out to Lowe's, when we go to the grocery store, everybody's like, hey, you're the little baby from TikTok and stuff like that. So I'm enjoying this journey. So I would tell my youngest self, don't stress. Everything is going to be okay. You have the next super genius entrepreneur on your hands, and as long as you do your best, that's all you can do. All you can do is your best. That's the only thing you could have control over is my actions. I can't control Caleb's actions. I can't control anything he says or does or behaves. I can only control how I act in the moment. So I would tell myself, just relax. It's going to be okay. Trust God. God has your back. I have a great support system.
Yep.
My family is there for me 24/7. So, I tell myself it's going to be okay.
Beautiful. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for being a part of Wife Her Live. And let's drop that TikTok and, let people know how they can stay in contact with you on the, fun side, the TikToking side, and also like professionally, and any parting words you want to give.
Okay, definitely. You can follow us on TikTok. It's kk.mom.dad, and it's just my family and how we our journey with autism,
Huh?
stages of Caleb's development and how he's progressing. Every change in his life, I try to post. And when he achieves and when he thrives, I try to post. I would never post him having, a bad day because I wouldn't want nobody posting me having a bad day. So it's very uplifting content to motivate moms and to just watch his improvement along the way. I'm also a school counselor, so if you have any questions about the education system, feel free to contact me about that. You can reach me on Instagram. You can DM me. It's Ceonn.Edwards on Instagram. I guess that's the best way to contact me if you have any questions or anything like that.
Perfect. So thank you so much for this conversation, for that injection of hope. And I see your sisters on board, so just shouting them out as well. Thank you for joining us in the audience. Thank you to everyone who joined in on the discussion. And I hope, mother or not, artistic child or not, I hope you left with something and that you feel encouraged and uplifted from being here. That's one of your tribe too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So
Definitely.
thank you, Theon. Just like Tamara said, this was really amazing, truly enlightening. Thank you for
Thank you
sharing.
guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.